All right, thank you for tuning in to the channel. We had a very exciting day with the Sean Diddy Combs trial, but today we have a new twist when it comes to this show because I also covered today the Drake versus UMG, or also involving with Kendrick Lamar. I covered this case today at 2 p.m., and I'm going to bring you guys the breaking news about this case of defamation because you all were singing the song. You probably have it as your ring saver or whatever you want to call it, ringtone, not like us. So that song is in court. It was streamed 9 billion times, people, 9 billion times. And that's why Drake is so mad. And it all came out in court today. But before we get into that, I want to bring on my guests. We have none other than criminal attorney Calvin Johnson, and we also have DJ Genesis of Detroit. So, Calvin, tell us all about you and where to find you.
I'm a criminal defense attorney in Dallas, Texas. I've been practicing almost 25 years. Next year will be my 25th year in practice. I do state, local, and federal criminal defense. I represent a couple of rappers myself, 7th grade out of Dallas, Texas. I'm actually his personal representative, and I've helped a few other rappers from time to time. But I do mainly criminal defense, but I do have some experience in the entertainment arena. I also used to represent Chris Bosh, who was one of the members of the Big Three in Miami, NBA champion, NBA Hall of Famer. And so I have a few ducks in my row. So let's get going on this Kendrick and Drake thing. I can't wait.
All right, very good. So first, we're going to jump right into this whole Diddy case. Today, the judge gave the instructions in regards to the jury instructions. It really got a lot of people in the courthouse. We're getting some sort of feedback. Not sure where it's coming from.
Well, my mic is muted, so
it can't be me because we don't have anything else going.
Not sure what it is. Okay, so at any rate, today in court, when it came to the drug distribution, the judge broke down just what basically Comey had broke down as far as the prosecution, that you don't have to sell drugs. You can just give a narcotic to someone else, and that's drug distribution. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, true, it is drug distribution. It's just kind of, I hate to say it, it depends on how the jury looks at it. Sometimes you can have these things, these ducks in a row, but the jury will sometimes look at that and go like, well, wait a minute. I mean, is it truly distribution? Do these people want to do these drugs? Is this their drug of choice? Because somebody's in a room with me and I happen to have some of what they already are going to take anyway. So he's right by the law, but sometimes the jury, sometimes they won't find it enough in their eyes to want to convict somebody of that. So I think that's going to be a very interesting tightrope that I think the jury is going to walk with itself in their head.
I notice when it comes to the predicate acts, let's take, for instance, the drug distribution. The judge said that if you're going to charge him with drug distribution, the jury would have to be unanimous on one occurrence where he gave someone drugs. What are your thoughts?
I think that's right. And they have to be unanimous on that, because if you're going to use a predicate, then everybody on the jury needs to be able to use that same predicate to be able to get to the higher offense. And I think that's right. And I think that's fair. And the judge is doing his job when it comes to that. And see, that's the thing. You know, you have a lot of these people who were hooked on different drugs at different times. They had their own different issues. And who is to say that they were not going to go take it anyway? Or who is to say a juror is going to say, if they took that drug, or if they went there and they wanted to take a particular drug, then that's on them. And so, you know, you got to be careful about that. But by the law, he's right. But a lot of jurors will not, a lot of juries or jurors won't go there. So we'll see what happens with that. But they'll all have to be unanimous on a particular occasion.
Okay, I see. Now, a friend of mine called me. I think she's out near Michigan. She said that a friend posted that there's already been a hung jury, and that's not true, because I was in court today at 5 o'clock when the jury was dismissed for the day, and the judge gave them instructions for tomorrow. So there is no conclusion to this matter yet. But I
Yeah.
will tell you the point of contention that came up today. The first note that came out from the jury to the judge was that one of the jurors, juror number 25, was not willing to follow the judge's instructions. And the assumption came out that, let's say 11 of them were in agreement, perhaps that Sean Puffy Combs was perhaps guilty when it came to one predicate act of maybe drug usage. And maybe this juror is saying, I don't believe that's the case. This is just hypothetical. What are your thoughts?
They don't have to believe that. It's in their eyes. And the judge may not like it. But some people on the jury may look at it like, well, he should do what we want to do, or he should see it the way we see it. But that's not those other jurors' jobs. It's his job. And see, that's the thing that you got to remember. Some people will look at this and go like, wait a minute, is this truly drug distribution? Is this truly a situation upon which we use this in a federal case as a predicate to convict somebody of a federal offense? There's some people that will look at that and I'm not going to do that. And they have a right not to do that. And you can get mad at them and say, well, they're not following law. But in their eyes, each particular juror gets to interpret it, and they get to see the evidence and the light that they see their evidence. You can't tell them how to see it and what to do with it.
The next question, the final question of the day that came from the juror was this. If a person wants the drug and you give it to them, is it still drug distribution? What are your thoughts?
And see, that's the thing. A lot of people are going to look at that and they're going to say, well, if they want it, they want it. They're going to get it from you or get it from somebody else. You didn't make them take it. And who's to say I actually provided it? To be honest with you, most of the time, people like Puffy, they have somebody else provide it. They have somebody else get it and give it to somebody. And so there's a lot of semantics when it comes to that. And there's a lot of folks that will not convict people or use that as a predicate or use that against Mr. Combs. And when I say that, we really know what drug distribution is. Typically is somebody selling it. They're selling large quantities. They're doing this, they're doing that. And I'm going to tell you, some people look like, well, giving somebody something that they were going to take anyways, is that really distribution? A lot of people won't look at it that way. They might not want to ride for that. And so that's one of the problems the prosecution is going to have that maybe they don't anticipate. But there's some people who see things that way.
What do these questions mean for Sean Puffy Combs that are coming from the jury?
I think that you may have a camp of folks that really want to convict him because they see a lot of things, a lot of stuff that the government's put out there. But remember what I said. All it takes is one or two people to go, nah, man, I'm not finding him guilty of a federal offense. And I don't think these other things that they're alleging are predicates. And all it takes is one or two to hang that jury. And one of the dynamics when you have a situation like that, a lot of people, when you have a situation like that and you got these jurors going at each other, a lot of these jurors will be like, well, I think what I think, I'm going to stand my ground. And I'm not going to let all 10 of you or 11 you make me change my mind. And the more they try to change that juror's mind, the more stiff that juror becomes. And so once again, we could have a situation where we have somebody already on this jury that said, you know what? I don't think the government's met its burden. And I don't think this particular providing one piece of drugs to this particular person is enough as for distribution. And I'm going to not vote, guilty. And they can do that. They have a right to do that. And the judge can't really do anything to them about it.
The judge came back and I think he admonished for the juror to follow the judge's instructions.
Yeah. That's all he can do. But once again, when you get a person that's dead, and I'm telling you, that tells me that the jury's already worried about one person. They're already worried about that one particular person. For them to actually say something, a note to come out, they're already worried about that one person. And that one person is probably going to be like, oh, y'all going to tell the judge? Oh, y'all going to tell it on me? Okay. And then that person can become even stiffer. And that's the thing that you see with a lot of juries. They will go in there because really you have to realize these people don't know each other. They don't know each other. And a lot of them will want to show you, and they're going to say, hey, look, I'm going to feel like I feel, and I'm going to show you that I have a right to feel like I feel and vote the way I want on this case. And that's what they will do.
In this particular case, let's say, for instance, it's the drug matter. The judge said from this morning, if you give or hand someone one pill, a narcotic, that's drug distribution, he gave the instructions. Let's say 11 people agree with that. And they said, okay, this happened, it's drug distribution. Technically, wouldn't he be going against the judge's ruling?
He could be, but not necessarily if he doesn't believe the person who said that they handed it to that particular person. If he don't believe the individuals, he can easily get out of there by saying, I don't believe that testimony. And he has a right not to believe that particular testimony, even though the other 11 people believe it or not.
Here's my next question. So being that this happened like within 2 hours of deliberation starting, what does this say for this whole jury in regards to this case?
I'll tell you one thing. Maybe a lot of this jury feels like we might want to convict Mr. Combs. But like I said, all it takes is one or two people that say, nah, I don't think that this case is what it is. I don't think that that thing should be a predicate, or I don't believe all of the witnesses that are testifying against Mr. Combs about some of the things that they're testifying to. Remember, we talked about this before. These people are kind of being forced and coerced into testifying, because if they don't testify, they may catch charges. And so some people will look at that and be like, nah, I really don't believe what they're saying. I think they're going out to Mr. Combs, and I think they're making these people say this. And a juror has a right to feel that way. And you can't do anything about that. The judge might not like it. The other jurors may not like it. But he has a constitutional right to vote the way he wants to vote.
I noticed today when the judge were going through the predicate acts, each one of them were coupled with aiding and abetting. Why is that the case?
You want to say aiding and abetting is because some people will actively participate in doing a particular thing. When you say aiding and abetting, it helps you prove that particular point. So let's say somebody gave somebody some drugs. Well, if I'm Puffy, if I paid for the drugs, or I made the call for the person to be able to go get the drugs when they couldn't get the drugs, then I've aided and abetted them. So it covers the actual act within itself, but it also covers playing a part in the actual act or providing a part of the actual act to happen.
When it comes to drugs, the judge says that, take for instance, Sean Puffy Combs, in order for him to have possession of the drug, he does not have to have it in hand. He could control a place across the country where the drugs are located or the movement. Could you explain?
Control access. When I say control or access, when I say you can control it where having it in your hands, you don't have to have it in possession. You can control access to it, which means, let's say I have a safe in California, but I'm in New York, but I'm the one who has the combination, and I tell G-Dep, the combination is 5642. Well, that means I have control and I have access. That means I possess it. I possess it in a way upon which I'm the one who controls the actual access to it. That's why I always tell people, drug dealers typically don't. If you notice, real drug dealers, they won't do hand-to-hand transactions. They may have a corner with a Folgers can around the corner, and they're the guy pay there, and he'll walk around and pick up his rock and keep going. They don't do hand-to-hand transactions. So what happens is people will say, well, you didn't sell anything because I didn't hand you anything. I didn't have control of it, but you controlled access. You knew where it was. You let the other person know where it was. You took money for it, and you made sure that they had access to the drugs because you really controlled that particular access. So you can control access and have that be an issue.
So I have a question. This is a federal case. Why was the judge telling them to look at kidnapping from the standpoint of California and New York laws? I didn't understand.
Because even though it's a federal case, those laws kind of mirror probably what the federal laws are. So that's why they probably were saying that, because they did happen in the state. And a federal case is basically behavior in a particular state. That could be California and New York. So that's basically what it is. They probably wanted them to look at it in the stands of, hey, it's kidnapping. You can do some kidnapping in New York and have it be part of a federal case, or you can do kidnapping in California and it be a part of a federal case. You still broke the law for the state, but you also broke the law for the feds.
So one last question about Diddy, and then we're going to move to this lawsuit with Drake versus UMG with Kendrick Lamar involved. What does it mean for Diddy if this one juror, just one, dig in his heels and it's a hung jury? What does his next reality look like immediately?
Well, it's not going to be double jeopardy. They're going to be allowed to try him again. And it's a good thing for him because he gets to literally go in, ask for a bond again, because they're going to have to do the trial over. He gets to ask for the ability to be able to go home. And in addition to that, he would have sat through a full trial knowing what the government is going to ask of him.
Wow.
And as a defense attorney, that's like getting a dry run. It's like you ran a play. I know how you're going to run the play for the most part next time, so I'm going to be ready for it.
Amazing. All right, so we're going to move over today, folks, at 2:00 in the courtroom number 14C. We had a new case come to town. It's a case involving Drake. He's suing, I believe, UMG in regards to this song, Not Like Us, that Kendrick Lamar put out. Now, in court before the judge, they painted this picture that this started off as a beef, and the judge was very understanding that this was like a street beef going back and forth. However, it turned into a major defamation case. So I have a couple questions for you. The defense attorney basically was saying that the lyrics are what they are, but he says a reasonable listener would understand the argument around the context that the lyrics, cover art, and the video of the song convey a singular message that Drake is a pedo. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, see, that's the issue when you have music. A lot of the beef on the music, a lot of music itself is creativity. A lot of these guys are not doing what they're saying in the songs, and everything in these songs are not true. And so there's going to be, in terms of defending Kendrick and UMG is going to say, hey, this is more parody. This is more wordplay. This is theater. It's not real. We're not in control of whether these things are true or not. It's art. Okay. For example, it's kind of, I hate to say the Weird Al Yankovic argument. He used to make songs of my parodies of Michael Jackson and other songs that were not real, but he's allowed to make a parody. Now, the issue is with defamation, they're going to say UMG knew or should have known that what Kendrick Lamar was saying was false, and it would paint Drake as a pedophile. And they had a duty to double check the information that Drake was putting out on the particular song.
The defense said it's just mere trash talk and that it was just a rap battle, but UMG turned it into a national anthem because it had over 9 billion streams.
Well, the issue is Drake has had beef with other people before, and he's won some of those things as well. The music is going to go where it's going to go. Now, they're going to say that UMG used their arm to promote, to push, to grow the song, but they're doing this as a company. And I think free speech is going to allow them as a company and Mr. Lamar as an artist to be able to say what he wants to say, because I would imagine, especially with these rappers, what they talk about is fantasy anyway. I mean, they're not doing all the stuff that they say they're doing. I mean, when you think about it, for the most part, a lot of these rappers are just telling fantasy stories. And so I'm telling you, they're going to argue that, hey, he has an artistic right to say what he wants to say. And Drake is going to say, no, he's defaming me. He's making statements that I'm a pedophile. In addition to that, you knew or should have known that I'm not a pedophile. And you had the duty and responsibility as a company to fact check what Mr. Lamar was saying. So that's going to be the entire argument.
Do you think that this will change the landscape of the music industry? This is like the first time we're seeing a rap battle go to court, right?
It has already changed in the landscapes because remember, the Clips, they have a new album coming out. Let God sort it out. They have a song called So Be It, talking about a lot of stuff. But they have a song called Whips and Chains. And Kendrick Lamar has a guest verse on that song. And the record label, UMG, refused to put the song out. Def Jam refused to put the song out. And the Clips refused to change the lyrics. So what ended up happening is Def Jam actually released the Clips as a group and released Pusha T as a solo artist off the label behind this song because they were afraid that Mr. Lamar might say something again about Mr. Drake, and they already have a lawsuit that's starting. So they didn't want the Clips this verse with Kendrick Lamar to be released. And so they actually literally released both of those individuals from their group contract and Pusha T as a solo artist from his contract. It's already changing the industry.
Wow. One of the arguments is after Drake showed his disdain, that UMG on at least 2 occasions gave new life to the song by investing in the Grammys promotion and also for the Super Bowl promotion. What do you think about that?
Man, I think it's sour grapes, man. I mean, in a rap battle, what happened in his rap battle is Mr. Drake lost and he just can't take the L. And that's just where I'm at. Because honestly, when you think about it, he can't go bar for bar with Mr. Lamar. Kendrick Lamar is one of the best lyricists of our time. I'm just going to keep it real. I don't care what coast you on. This guy, he's one of them cats. And at the end of the day, Mr. Drake is used to winning every single battle. But look at the songs and look at the things he said about other people before. And a matter of fact, on one of the songs, he actually lied about Mr. Lamar's relationship with his wife. He said he was a wife beater. So if you look at the Not Like Us video, you notice because of that situation, Mr. Lamar's wife or girlfriend or fiance actually is dancing in a wife beater because Mr. Drake said that he beat his wife and she did it as a parody. So when you start talking about these things, there's a lot of back and forth that if I'm that record label, I'm going to point out a lot of stuff that Drake said wasn't true. But Mr. Lamar ain't complaining about it.
As I was sitting in court, I was pretty amazed because the judge, she knew a lot about the music. She knew a lot about Drake. She knew a lot about Kendrick Lamar. And she mentioned that Drake had mentioned just what you said about beating Kendrick Lamar, beat his wife. But also the judge mentioned that Drake had said Kendrick had perhaps an illegitimate son or question about whether the kid was his. So
yes,
is that normal for a judge to know about modern things in hip hop?
It is. Today's judges are different. I mean, a lot of them listen to hip hop. You have to realize a lot of these judges were raised on it. You know, hip hop across the lines. I mean, you know, the white kids in the suburbs are listening. So even if you went to school, even though I'm a lawyer, I grew up in the hood, but I know plenty of lawyers that grew up in the hood that know Dr. Dre, that know Kendrick Lamar, that know Snoop Dogg, that know Drake, that know Kanye. They listen to that music. That's the music of our time. Hip hop has become very, very popular. So you once again, when you look at the battle itself, there are going to be numerous instances where Mr. Drake said things that were not true.
The judge made a very interesting point. She said that Kendrick, when they had this beef going back and forth with the banter, he had no idea that he would sell 9 billion records or that he'd be sitting at the Super Bowl. So she gave a hell of an illustration. She says if there's two people out in the street and they're arguing back and forth, and then the next day, one of them say, hey, this guy defamed me. She said, I would want to go back and listen to this conversation that they had on the street as to how they got here. What do you think about that?
And once again, Mr. Drake is going to lose this. I think he's going to lose this lawsuit. I don't think he has a leg to stand on. It's a rap battle. He got beat in a rap battle and he tried to take it to court. But he got beat so bad, he had to go get a judge to try to stop it. That's just kind of what it is. And that's just telling the truth. And then I think judges don't want to cause people to lose their ability to speak freely. Free speech, First Amendment.
The judge says, I do not need to hear the complaint on actual malice when the prosecution or the plaintiff, rather, said they wanted to show malice. Could you explain what this means?
She's probably saying that she doesn't need to hear it. She knows all of the verses of the song. Probably she's probably heard everything. And so I think this judge is kind of telegraphing them that this is not the venue and this is not defamation in her eyes. I think she's starting to telegraph that, or she's allowing them to know you got a higher bar to meet here, sir. This is not going to be that simple just because he said something bad that you didn't like, that paints you in a negative light when you guys probably going back and forth doing the same thing to each other. That just doesn't make sense to me. And the judge is probably setting a high bar for this one.
The judge even went back and brought up this song called Tailor Made, where it seems that a lot of these allegations stem from, speaking about young girls of some sort. And then they also mentioned that with Drake, there's allegations of him going to young girls' basketball games. And also one of the guys in his camp has been somehow associated.
One guys I've heard, one of the guys in his camp, they got to register. So Kendrick knew that information, and I think somebody from Drake's inside is feeding him that. Because what I hear, and this is just speculation, Drake takes a lot of the people in his camp's music away from them and turns it into his. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it's like I got 5 or 6 guys that are signed to me. They're creative, but if they got a hit, I take their hit and I add my lyrics to it and I sing it. And I heard that a lot of information is coming from the inside about some of his behavior, and then the inner workings of the crew and what issues that they have going on.
All right. They also talked about information and belief pleadings. What is that?
Information and belief pleadings. It's just like when the information that you're putting in the pleadings, that's kind of what it is. I mean, what allegations are you making in the pleadings that aren't be true, or do you even believe what you're putting in these briefs, these allegations? Are they actually something that break the law? Because you have to think about it, right? Kendrick has said stuff about Drake. Drake said stuff about Kendrick, but really, is that an offense that somebody should be suing for? And is that defamation? So that's kind of where they're going with that, I think.
They talked about reasonable listeners and how that what's to be expected from them. How do you quantify a reasonable listener and how they're affected?
And see, that's the thing. What does the reasonable listener believe? Do they believe Drake is a pedophile? They may like the song, they may like the line, but they're like, man, he's not a pedophile, but that was a good line. That was a good one. You know what I mean? It's like, that was a hot one. Because rappers, let's be honest, these guys sell fantasies. They're not killing everybody that they say they kill. At least most of them are not. Now you got some of the young folks, they're doing something different out here. They drill rap different. But a lot of these rappers they haven't done the stuff they said they're doing. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so a lot of the rap itself within itself is basically a fantasy of storytelling. So can you really see somebody behind storytelling? Most of the rap is a fantasy within itself.
Okay, so for everybody just coming in, today I attended Kendrick Lamar versus UMG, which they're suing. Drake is suing rather, in regards to the song "Not Like Us" by Kendrick Lamar. And we're going to cover this case to see what happens. One of the things that came out in court about this matter is that UMG was inflating the numbers to really push this song through the roof. And they talked about these bots and how UMG would purchase these bots just to cloud the airways or with these streams when it's just fake space, not real clicks or what have you. Could you tell us more about that?
Yeah, a lot of rappers use bots to run their numbers up. Like, so if you have a song that's out, you want to make everybody think that they're listening to that song. So as record labels, they can't go by sales as much anymore. They go by streams. So when you put something up on YouTube, if it has 1,000 views, they go, not that many people are following that. But you put something up and it's 1 million views, wow, you start paying attention, like everybody's watching this. And what a lot of record labels have been accused of doing, even for Drake, and he may have his own issues, and he may be telling it on himself and telling it on his label. A lot of them purchase these bots, which go in and click the video to run the numbers up, but they're fake numbers. They're not real people watching them. It's all fakely generated.
Wow. They also offered financial incentives for people to somehow push this music. What are your thoughts on that?
That's the thing. That's a payola that they say about record companies. That's the payola that gets paid to some of the DJs now, some even the podcasters. So podcasters are doing it now where labels are creating partnerships with podcasters to talk about stuff in a positive light and do shows on it and push the song. And so that's what they're talking about. It's kind of like payola.
Is it unethical to use bots and so forth?
I think it is. I think it is unethical, but however, there's no law really against it. Is it unethical? Yeah, maybe, but it's nothing against the law. You can use bots.
So the judge says, are you saying that UMG used these bots to also hurt other artists as well? And the answer was yes. So what are your thoughts on that?
And see, that's the thing. He has to be careful because the UMG also may have used bots to even help him. But there's nothing against the law. It's not against the law to use a bot. If you invest in a song, you're going to invest in a song. You want many people as possible to listen to it. As a company, that's what they're doing.
Drake is also claiming that they used misleading statements in order to cause him direct financial harm.
And see, that's the thing. For him, if somebody's calling him a pedophile, who wants somebody's been called a pedophile to rep their brand, to rep what they got going on, to rep their liquor, to rep their basketball team, to rep their product, to rep their clothing line. So that's probably what he's trying to say. It probably cost him some advertising opportunities, some marketing opportunities. But at the same time, it's a rap. They were going back and forth. And to tell you the truth, both of them probably said a lot of stuff about each other that were not true.
In Kendrick's song, he makes the statement, certified lover boy, certified P. Mm-hmm. In court, they argued that certified lover boy is either an album or a song. And so they said that this is just a word. The defense attorney said that this is just a word play from the album or the song. And he came back with certified, mm-hmm. P word, right? Mm-hmm. What are your thoughts on that? It's just a play on words.
It's a play on words. And at the end of the day, it's a rap battle. And I think that this judge is smart enough to know she ain't going to start regulating rap battles. I want you to think about this. Drake goes in and wins. Battle rap would be over. You couldn't really have battle raps anymore. I mean, hip hop in Hollywood is fantasy for the most part. And I don't think judges are going to take the ability away for it to continue to be fantasy.
What do you think as far as they say that there's a material fact of lying? I hear that also with Diddy's case. It seems that they're trying to claim fraud on all of these cases.
Well, they're trying to say is that UMG knew a lie was being told. It was easy to fact check that lie. They did not. Or they did and didn't do anything about it. So if somebody calls me a pedophile, it's easy to check that. It's easy to check to see if I've been convicted of something like that. It's easy to check to see if I did A and B and C, like Mr. Lamar said. But once again, they're doing that to each other. And then in the music industry within itself, they are allowed to go a little farther than just like regular folks. I mean, that's why you have parodies. I mean, think about it. Think about Saturday Night Live every week when they come out and they'll do a song, and it'll be a song, but they'll change the words and they'll make fun of somebody in that song. They do that all the time. Mad TV was great at it. And so when you think about it, it's just a parody. And they can make that argument as well. I would if I was working for UMG.
Right before they started the rap battle, I went to Drake's concert. It was amazing. I mean, it was packed to the brim. He had Lil Wayne there, all these different things floating around. I mean, it was so amazing, right? Mm. At that concert, I think he said he made $4 million that night. So if he's claiming damages, financial damages, what kind of price tag do you think would be on this type of case?
Well, he's going to say that he lost brand deals that is causing him other stuff. So he's going to try to attribute what he had been doing in the past to what he's doing now. He's going to try to put a number on that. I think that number is going to be hard to believe, but he can try to formulate something that I think that he's going to think he lost. But I don't think that's going to fly. I just don't. Because they're going after each other.
Let's say Drake wins the case. Should other battle rappers or rappers in general be concerned about their future?
They should, because it's going to limit the ability to be creative. It's going to limit the ability to say what you want, and open and freely. And in rap is fantasy. Rap in Hollywood is all fantasy. What are you going to do? So let's be honest. And then when you look at Drake himself, he said plenty of stuff about people that I'm pretty sure that nobody can go prove. And so once again, it goes back in the circular argument to what you said. If I'm going to give somebody a judgment on this, I want to go back and hear the whole argument. And when you do that, no.
So what should we expect for this trial? You think it's going to go all the way to trial? I think they'll put a lot of evidence.
They're going to try to expose a lot of the stuff that's happening in the music industry. And I think Drake is making a calculated bet that UMG is not going to want all the stuff that they do to make these artists hot, all the stuff they do to make these artists who they are and make them sell. And you know, as well as I know, Mel, we're a little older in the game when it comes to hip hop, but hip hop, unfortunately, and I hate to say this because I don't want to sound like the old man, get off my lawn. It's becoming more trendy as opposed to lyrical. I mean, thank God, Kendrick brought lyrical beatdowns back, but a lot of these artists, they're not really lyrical. They're sing-songy, they're trendy, they're auto-tuning, and so that's just kind of what it is.
Is this something that the federal government will get involved, like with Diddy case?
No, they won't. And I think that because number one, it's a civil matter. And I think that ultimately Drake, because he has benefited from the machine. Let's be honest. Drake has benefited from the machine. And now because machine is not benefiting him, he's complaining about it. And I think that judge is probably going to take that standpoint. She's at least alluding to what she thinks about this so far.
So would you say dismissal, settlement, or trial for this case?
It could get dismissed, but UMG might settle it because UMG really doesn't like people to know what they're doing behind the background, because you have to remember the music nowadays is a machine. I was listening to Pimp C this morning, and he said in one of his old interviews, music used to go to different parts of the country. The number one song in Florida wouldn't be the number one song in California. The number one song in Texas wouldn't be the number one song in New York. New York had a number one. Florida had a number one. Hip hop used to be regional. But now a company like UMG, they have consolidated everything. There's only two major radio networks. I mean, you have others, but you got two major radio networks that own most of the stations on the country. So every song is hot in Florida is hot in New York and California because of the way that they do music now. Hip hop has become more global, not regional like it used to be.
All right, very good. So listen, thank you for breaking this all down for us. I really appreciate it tremendously. I do have one final question, being that we're still covering the Sean Diddy Combs case. What are your colleagues saying as far as the charges? Will he be charged with racketeering and also the other charges? Tell us about it.
Like, I was talking to a prosecutor in Dallas the other day, and they was like, you know what? He's done some bad things, and he probably needs to go to jail for it at the state level. But the stuff that they have, to me, isn't racketeering. I mean, a lot of the people, when you look at the witnesses that they brought up, for the most part, at some point, they wanted to participate in some of the behavior that happened. Is it bad behavior? Is it crime at the state level? Some of it is, and a lot of it is. But is it something to make a federal RICO out of? And there's a lot of people that feel that way about the situation. And you have to remember, these people, despite whatever their feelings on Puffy and how much they may think he's a freak, they may look at it from a standpoint of government is overcharging here. If we allow the government to take this behavior that a lot of these people wanted to participate in and turn it into a federal RICO, that's a little bit much. At the state level, is he guilty of it? Probably yes. Should be charged at the state level. But is it a federal RICO? And is this an overcharge? Is this an overreach? A lot of people, believe it or not, will look at this and say, I don't want my federal government overreaching like that. And then you have to realize, Trump era, right? A lot of people in the Trump era don't trust the federal government because Trump has told them not to. So you got to start thinking about that.
I want to ask you one final question, and then we're going to go.
I do have a question before you leave.
Okay.
Okay. And go with your question, because that just threw me off. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
I really wanted, man, it just threw me off too. Hold on. It was
okay. I'm okay. I'll take it.
Go ahead and I'll ask my question.
So let me ask you a question. When Donald Trump had all of his accusations against him, I noticed that his MAGA team really supported him high and low. And even in the debate between him and Joe Biden, when Joe Biden made a simple flub, the Democrats threw him to the wolves the next day. Tell that guy to get out of here. And even with Diddy, even though he's done some very atrocious things, we're not disputing that, people are not standing behind him in any way close, not even 20% of what they do for Donald Trump, who has some very vicious claims as well. What are your thoughts on that?
I got to be careful when I say this, but I'm going to be honest with you. Our people, sometimes we're just looking at a problem and assessing it, and then we're taking a moral high ground. For a lot of the MAGA people, they look at it as we got to deal with a bigger problem. So who cares that Mr. Trump said grab him by the P in an interview? Am I willing to look over that? Because the bigger issue is, are we going to control this country, and how's it going to hurt our people? And see, Black folks, we don't do that enough. And when I say we don't do that enough, now I'll tell you, I don't want to co-sign on bad behavior, but we got to pay attention. This man's a billionaire, and there are people in places that don't want him controlling anything. And when if we lose Puffy to this situation, there are going to be a lot of people, a lot of folks that are going to lose opportunities, jobs. There are going to be a lot of people in the future that are not going to be created because he'll no longer be in charge of that. And so sometimes for us, we don't make that calculation. We just go like, he's wrong. I'm going to take the moral high ground and I'm going to take it now. The MAGA people say, no, it's a bigger picture. Who cares that he says grab him by the P? Who cares that he cusses sometimes? Who cares that he's mean and tells them, get him out of here? They don't care about that. They see their bigger picture. Sometimes we're not united enough to see our bigger picture.
Thank you for breaking that down. Genesis, go ahead with your question, and then we're going to close out.
So my question is, all right, so now you have Carmelo Anthony, and you have Antoine Massey. What do you think is the next biggest trial to hit? And what do you think the impact of both of these trials are going to have on us? Do you think it's going to cause like mass hysteria?
I think the Carmelo Anthony is a problem because of what he did, and it was black on white, and then the young man ended up dying. And then he basically said, yeah, I did it. I'm not alleged. And then you have the circus of the people that are kind of controlling him. You have that circus going on, right? And so I don't think that circus is helping him. I think the Carmelo Anthony case at the end of the day is going to affect us negatively, black and white, because it has made us stand on two different separate sides of the aisle. And my personal opinion is we shouldn't be on two separate sides of the aisle. These are two young people. There were 17-year-olds that both had bright futures. It should be sad on both sides that these two young individuals, black and white, chose to argue and resolve their disputes this way. There's no winners here. When it comes to Antoine Massey, I think it shines a light on the judicial system in Louisiana. I currently am a part of a documentary called He Never Came Home. That actually happened in Louisiana, where they locked a mentally disabled, a mentally challenged man in jail for 43 years and never let him home for a crime that he did not commit. They forced him to confess to a crime that he did not commit, even though he was mentally challenged. They forced him to admit to a crime, even though he could not drive a car the 30 miles across town that it would take for him to commit the crime. His family was so afraid for him to take public transportation because they were scared he was going to get lost, much less drive a damn car. So I think that case is going to shine a light on the judicial system in Louisiana, and it is going to remind people. Antoine Massey is reminding people of how he got convicted and the conviction rate in Louisiana and how many people that are convicted there and the putrid conditions of being locked up in Louisiana. I think the Carmelo Anthony case is going to have more of an impact, though. Because we got to remember, and I'll say this to you, and black folks got to be honest. When you have black kids stabbing white kids at track meets and that kid dies, it's not going to go well. And it's out in Collin County, and it's a county that's majority white.
Do you think it's going to cause like some kind of like more upheaval that we're already having in society?
I don't think as much, because to be honest with you, I think Carmelo Anthony, I think his case is starting to go. I'm not saying that black people are not supporting him as strong as they used to, but they're looking at all the money he got in the GoFund send, and he's trying to say he's indigent and he can't afford an attorney, and despite all this money he's got. So there's a lot of people saying, I don't know about that. And so I don't know if we are as strong behind him as we were in the beginning. And I think that's trending the other way. I'm not saying we're going against him, but we're not as strong with him as we had been in the past. I don't think it's going to be a huge thing in terms of us being upset. I think it's a huge thing for white folks being upset that a 17-year-old black kid killed another student who didn't have a weapon.
So with Antoine Massey, do you think that we could actually like enact some kind of change when it comes down to the judicial system and how they treat their inmates? Do you think that if enough people got together, say, listen, these prison systems are deplorable, how they're treating our inmates, do you think there's like anything that could be enacted when this case really comes into play?
I think it shines a light on that, and I think there is something that's going to be done to watch those conditions, because they don't even have air conditioners in those places. There's most of the prisons in Texas don't have air conditioning,
and it's 100 degrees. That's crazy. They don't have air conditioning. 100 degrees. It's like today was like 100 degrees today. Yeah,
so I think that is going to attract more attention to those conditions. But y'all, I gotta go. I gotta eat. I'm starving. But I think ultimately, the Carmelo Anthony case is going to have a bigger impact because of all the stuff that's surrounded by it. And you got two 17-year-olds, and it's going to be constantly in the news.
All right, very good. So listen, I'd like for you to go ahead and finish out and tell everybody where to find you and who you are again.
I'm attorney Calvin D. Johnson. I have a law office here in Dallas, Texas. I've been practicing law for almost 25 years. I'm in my 24th year. I can be reached at theywon'tletmeout.com. That's the website. I can be reached by email at attorneycalvindjohnson@gmail.com. And I can be reached by phone at 214-565-5600. And listen, Mel and I and DJ Genesis, we do a podcast on the Diddy trial. We'll be doing some stuff on Kendrick Lamar as well as other upcoming big time cases. Sometimes it will be entertainment, sometimes it will be sports, sometimes it will be light. But we're going to keep this thing rolling. So we want you to tune in to Watching the World. And we want you to tune in to DJ Genesis Detroit. And we want you to tune in to Attorney Calvin D. Johnson so we can actually keep this thing going. I appreciate y'all, and we're going to rock out. And until we meet again, we'll see y'all soon.
Good night, everyone.
Take care.